My wholesome channel has unintentionally taken a sharp left turn towards racial issues in entertainment. This was never my goal because that stuff is not fun. I wanted to have a very positive channel, and racial issues are usually anything but positive. But since I'm here now through all fault of my own, I want to make the last and final video on my long-running one-sided beef with Miles Morales. I promise this is the last one because I don't enjoy making these either. So let's talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows, whose reception by the public is the perfect encapsulation of what I've been trying to put across for like a year now. All the drama around this game actually relates quite closely to my recent rants about representation in media, but if this is your first time seeing my videos, I promise you it's not going to be as simple as you probably think my opinion will be. While some of what I'll say is not new because this conversation has been raging on for the last several days, but I'll tie it all together into the larger reason why I decided to make this channel in the first place. I also tend to go on what seem like random tangents, but I promise there is a purpose. I should say off the top that I have no investment in the Assassin's Creed Shadows game because outside of Splinter Cell, Ubisoft is a dead company to me. I have played 3 Assassin's Creed games and 2 Watch Dogs games as well as The Crew in the past, so I'm very familiar with their approach to open world game design and storytelling, as well as their scummy pre-order and pricing strategies, which is why I don't give them my money anymore and I don't intend to start doing it again. My disdain for Ubisoft is really not new and receipts can be found all over the place. But that's not what this video is about. I'm an artist and a storyteller myself, so I like to keep my opinions where my expertise lies, which is usually in the characters and story content. As far as I can tell, there are 2 big issues that everyone has with this. The first, which I've spoken of before, is this infiltration of activists into media to change the direction of storytelling and to influence social politics in a certain direction. The second, for people who are not as invested in that socio-political fight, is that people have been begging for an Assassin's Creed in Japan for years now, and it's finally coming, but not in the way that a lot of people expected. Those 2 things may sound the same, but they are not, and I will explain why. If you have somehow managed to avoid all this drama so far and somehow clicked on this video, the announcement material released by Ubisoft featured a black samurai called Yasuke and a second female shinobi who appears to be fully Asian. The expectation pretty much everyone had when they were clamoring for an Assassin's Creed game of this setting was essentially Ghost of Tsushima Ubisoft Edition, but Ghost already beat them to the punch, and the resurgence of the Japanese setting in gaming recently probably made Ubisoft want to take a different approach with their game so that they can stand apart, and that is the most charitable assumption I will give them. I do not like this company's approach to game design and storytelling, so I won't even give them that much credit for intentionality, even though it might be true. And I'm not even going to touch on the rumors swirling around that Yasuke might be a Yas Queen, which if true would not surprise me in the slightest. Yeah, I read that joke in a comment section and I said I have to steal it. But from what I've heard about the game, it appears the lady is the main protagonist and Yasuke is probably her bodyguard within the narrative, but you'll apparently be able to switch between the characters at will. None of that is important to the conversation that I want to have, so let's get to what is. Starting with the second reason I mentioned earlier because it will be quicker to get through. For those who are waiting for their first Assassin's Creed in Japan to look a certain way, divorced from all the feelings about activism in entertainment, I completely get that. I have complained about Zack Snyder's Superman and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man for not being representative of the mainline versions of the characters in the comics, which is an important distinction to make because the movies do not operate like the comics. When you get a Superman or a Batman or a Spider-Man movie, it will almost always be like the flagship comic because film studios are not pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into Elseworlds stories like the lower budget comic book medium has leeway to do. The stakes are much higher in film, so your main event thing should be representative of the most widely known version of the character, so I get that. There were innumerable ethnically Asian samurai but only one Yasuke, so he is not the representative of Japanese samurai history. If you were to tell only one story that represents Japanese samurai history, he would not be the symbol for that but rather the exception. That is an extremely valid argument, but because of the socio-political landscape today, if that is your opinion, you'll receive no benefit of doubt at all, and you'll get lumped in with the second group that I'll talk about in just a second. But just so you understand that I get your perspective, I'll approach it from a different angle. I was always apprehensive about a female protagonist in GTA because GTA is and has always been a very masculine game. But does that mean I hate women? Of course not. Horizon Zero Dawn was my favorite PS4 game, and there is a Spider-Man game on the PS4, which should tell you something. Unless this is the first video of mine that you're watching, in which case, Spidey is my favorite fictional character, period. And Gilmore Girls is one of my all-time favorite shows. All I'm saying is, nuance exists when it comes to preference, and that is really getting lost in discourse these days. Now, for the second group of racist bigots. I'm joking. But to my regular watchers, it's not news for me to say this, but the Western entertainment industry has broken all trust that the audience previously had with them. And that did not happen overnight, not by any means. I mentioned in my previous video that everyone is so hypervigilant these days over things that we mostly just glossed over in the past. And that sounded like a throwaway line, but I really meant it. I don't know how pure the intentions of the activists in media are, but whatever they've done over the last decade plus has had the complete opposite effect of what they claim they were trying to achieve. If I could put a tinfoil hat on, it almost feels like a psyop to sow division among the masses, which is a whole other topic that I can make a separate video on. The reason I go so hard against Miles Morales and Falcon Captain America and all these other race, gender, and sexuality swaps, as well as the recent habit of intentionally torpedoing beloved franchises for social politics, is because it does this. Right here, right now, what is happening at the moment. It creates so much unnecessary division and ends up amplifying issues that it was supposedly meant to solve. Literally pouring gasoline to douse a flame. And that's why I think this must be a psyop, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. The broken trust between the entertainment industry and the audience is a big problem because they have now recruited all the casuals into a culture war that they did not even know exists. It goes without saying that there will always be well-intentioned people with opposing views out there, but there will always be racists as well, and all that this drama does is blurring the lines between the two, and it winds up making everyone equally combative. People who would otherwise agree with you start to take hardline stances against you because they're starting to feel bullied. Trust me, when I complain about Miles Morales, it is not lost on me that some people out there use their animosity towards the character to espouse very racist views, and the culture war gives those opinions an equal platform to proliferate. But the thing about that is, when you look back at GTA San Andreas from 2004, I saw all the negative and racist comments made about CJ back before the game released. That was not news. But think about it, what happened after? People realized that GTA San Andreas was an incredibly inspired game that came from a very genuine place, and it became impossible to attack it without outing yourself for how you really feel about a certain demographic. For a majority of the world today, GTA San Andreas is their favorite GTA game, and no one cares what the color of CJ's skin is. When I was making my two previous San Andreas videos, I discovered how huge San Andreas was and still is in Russia, and everyone knows it's not just the snow that is white over there. Nobody can look at CJ and say that San Andreas was a DEI game, the same way nobody looks at Will Smith and Denzel Washington in a trailer and calls them diversity hires. Everyone is usually just hyped to be getting a new Will Smith or Denzel Washington movie. To be undeniably relevant across all cultures, you need to create new, genuinely inspired characters and stories that would leave anyone with racist ideas isolated in their racism. Again, GTA San Andreas is a cross-cultural institution in gaming at this point.
Oh shit, here we go again.
And it's not considered black media or a black game. It's considered one of the best games of all time. Even for those who are angry at the perceived lack of representation in media, by which you feel like you should not have to have rules over how your representation is manifested, meaning you're cool with race swapping and mantle passing, which I contend is the only tool in the belt of a creatively bankrupt writer, I find it hard to believe that you want to keep fighting a culture war forever. And if you do, you have much bigger problems than wanting a black Spider-Man. I really hate what the activists have done to entertainment. Back when I was a kid, nobody I knew even thought about Dexter's skin color in Dexter's lab, even though he was as pale as pancake batter, and nobody thought Dexter being cordial with Action Hank was somehow solving racism in America. Everyone just thought that it was an amazingly fun and relatable cartoon. But over the years, there's been a sustained campaign by activist writers who think they're doing something positive by patting themselves on the back over very strange behavior that reduces everyone down to the color of their skin. I could not find it for this video, but I distinctly remember a tweet where some Marvel writer was bragging that they wrote a scene that had Captain America acknowledge a minority character, and so Captain America was not racist. I'm substituting that tweet with this screenshot from Reddit because it captures the same thing. From my perspective, this is honestly extreme weirdo behavior. There is a saying I hear a lot in Black spaces that goes, "What is understood does not need to be explained." It's usually used in the context of telling you how to move through society, but I would very much apply it here. If you think you need to write a page in a comic book to show that Captain America accepts black people or whatever race you're pandering to, then 1, that is extremely patronizing to the people you think you're appeasing, and 2, you are weird. That is weird and you're a whole weirdo. Nobody else was thinking about inferiority and superiority in that context except you. Again, I think this has to be a psyop to amplify division because it makes no sense. It's become very clear to me that there is a concerted effort to split audiences today, and that really bums me out.
And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. Problem solved.
I wholeheartedly believe that there is a world or a time or a reality where an Assassin's Creed game starring Yasuke is positively received. No one really batted an eye when Netflix released the Yasuke show a couple of years ago, and I hear it was not very good. As far as I can tell, there was little to no drama around it. We even had stuff like Afro Samurai, which everyone I know really enjoyed. But media companies have spent significant amounts of time and money to ensure that we all see ourselves as immutable characteristics like the color of the skin we're born into and have no control over, instead of the content of our character. Yasuke in Assassin's Creed really does not offend me at all, and probably because I'm not Asian, and if I wasn't paying attention to the entertainment landscape, I'd probably be completely baffled by the backlash. But that world where these things don't happen only exists where these companies have not spent literal years attacking, gaslighting, and demeaning their global audience to pander to an insignificant audience that does not even buy their media. And by insignificant audience, I'm not talking about minorities in the way that we understand it in terms of race. I'm talking about that small, chronically online audience that uses popular media as a tool of revenge against people they do not like, or the mega corporations that use our fandoms as tools of control/manipulation, and in the process create a very divisive society that just wanted to be entertained. I created this channel to talk about the nostalgic times of media when things were very unifying and progress was being made in the right direction with genuine, inspired, and authentic stories. But somewhere along the 2015s, we lost our way and decided to use media as a tool for sowing division. This is why I say what I say and do what I do with these videos. The road to the reception of Assassin's Creed Shadows was paved by years of race and gender and sexuality swaps, as well as vitriol by people who either appear to be delusional, cultish, or insulated inside a bubble, or deeply unhappy in themselves, because misery tends to love company, and so unfortunately every new entertainment-related announcement is proving every day that it might be too late to reverse course.
Absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
I'll see you in the next one. Peace.